Just looking to the sky to watch this Concorde come down on the northerly runway. John, what sort of speed is it doing now as it's coming into land?
He'll be doing roughly about 157 knots, something like that. And, oh, well, I think we'll say a little gust of wind caught him.
Was there a little bounce there, or was that my imagination?
No, it was a gust of wind.
You're being loyal. You're being loyal to your fellow fraternity of Concorde pilots.
Dear. He won't be pleased.
He won't be pleased.
Remember, this aeroplane lands and takes off a great deal faster than your average jumbo.
And the reverse thrust that you must need to get to break it, is that, do you feel that jolting?
There are two things about the deceleration of Concorde on landing. The reverse thrust is extraordinarily effective, and the carbon fibre wheel brakes, which have pioneered the wheel brakes for all the sort of modern Airbuses and so on, and all modern aeroplanes, are incredibly efficient in terms of absorbing energy. You can stop a Concorde. I've stopped one at Cardiff in about 4,000 feet of runway.
Yeah, and I mean, I can just see the next one coming in behind us now, which I suspect will be touching down in a couple of minutes' time. But you talk about that. We talk about the technological advances made by Concorde for Concorde, but presumably the technological advances had other spin-offs in other areas of life, and we've got another magnificent shot of one Concorde coming into land and another Concorde sort of stacking up behind it. There must have been other the technological advances, just like the moon landing, I don't know, gave us Teflon, for example. There must have been things associated with Concorde.
Oh, absolutely many. And not least the worldwide prestige which it won for British aviation, British engineering. And there is no doubt that the spin-off effect of Concorde almost immeasurable. For instance, Airbus would not have been formed had it not been for the cooperation between England and France in the construction of this aeroplane. Another thing we haven't mentioned, which is unique, is the thrust of power when Concorde accelerates from the cruising speed of a normal jumbo to supersonic speed, and you literally go back in your seat like that.
There she comes.
But this, of course, is absolutely the reverse process.
Lovely. It's such a gorgeous sight when she comes into land. She always reminds me of some swan touching down on a lake or something. It's such an elegant, long-necked, beautiful creature.
We haven't mentioned the drooped snoot, the famous drop nose, which makes it possible to take off and land this aeroplane, which has an attitude so different from any other airliner.
And the droop snoot, incidentally, is just so that the pilots can actually get a decent view of the runway. With the nose up, the poor old pilot coming into land would have his view of the runway totally obscured.
So it has to do it. In fact, I mean, I tell you what, I want to pause slightly now, because what we're seeing now is flight 002, and this is going to be the final Concorde that people are going to see coming into land at Heathrow Airport. This is it. This is the end of the era. This is the final one that we're going to see in the skies, and I suspect it's got probably a minute and a half left before it comes onto the runway and then taxis round. I think it will almost do a lap of honour around the airport to come onto the stand. John, just tell me what you're thinking now.
I was actually thinking about the staff at Kennedy Airport, the British Airways staff, who will miss it madly. They were fantastic to us. In fact, the whole of the Port of New York Authority and the air traffic controllers at Kennedy Airport were treated Concorde with tremendous help and assistance and cooperation.
Tell me this, being a pilot on Concorde, were you treated as somehow something different? A cut above the rest almost? I mean, or that maybe other pilots felt a little chippiness, because to fly that beautiful thing.
It wasn't us that were a cut above the rest, it was that aeroplane that was a cut above the rest. All we were the privileged pilots and flight engineers who were allowed to operate that aeroplane for all those years.
And did you feel that? Look, here it comes now.
I certainly did feel that.
And down she comes.
Just settling down. Lovely.
Puff of smoke from the
Perfect.
wheels.
And then once that nose wheel touches down, that's when we bring in the reverse thrust and the carbon fibre brakes swing into action. It's a lovely sight. You can hear the reverse thrust coming through the studio.
So what is it? Sadness? A feeling of pride? Sadness? What is the mixture of emotions, John Hutchinson?
Sadness for me, predominantly. But pride that the aeroplane has achieved so much in its commercial life, and it's demonstrated that supersonic flight is doable and that there are huge benefits to supersonic flight, and I'm sure there will be a successor to Concorde at some stage.
I had the misfortune of being the BBC's Paris correspondent when Concorde crashed, and I went out to Gonesse that evening. And there was a feeling then that would Concorde ever fly again? Did you think it was right to make all the investment in the aircraft to bring it back for what has been a relatively short period of time?
I'll tell you what I do think, very strongly indeed. I don't believe that British Airways should ever have grounded their Concordes.
And you can see, I think we can see the Union flag poking out of the window there.
Yes.
As possibly the most famous nose in the world. And just look at the people behind, the ground crew. They've probably all got other things they're meant to be getting on with. But the whole airport, I suspect, at Heathrow has come to a halt for these three Concordes.
Just to go back very briefly to what you were saying, if you cast your mind back, you'll remember that after that dreadful event at Paris, British Airways carried on operating their Concordes for about 3 weeks with a whole lot of very tight checks and procedures agreed with the Civil Aviation Authority. And it was eventually, I'm afraid, pressure mainly from France that it ended up with the grounding of the airplane, which I believe was completely unjustified and slurred the reputation of a magnificent airplane.